me today is Dougie Cameron. For those of you that don't know Dougie, he started his career in finance, so he's ICAS qualified and has spent a chunk of his career working for very recognisable brands. And then Dougie moved into a broader leadership role and is currently the Chief Operating Officer at the Centre for the Moving Image. And he's the chair of the board of directors at Triathlon Scotland, as well as, I believe, the non-exec at British Triathlon Federation. There's a bit of a theme happening there, I can see.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're into your triathlons.
I am, yeah. And everything to do with it, swim, bike and run.
I love it. How much swim, biking and running have you managed to do during the last 6 months?
I had, on the hottest day of the year, I spluttered through a 5K. Otherwise, I've really not seen much vitamin D at all this year.
See, I think that makes the rest of us feel a little bit better, you know, knowing that you're really into it. And even you, Dougie, haven't managed to quite keep it up like you would normally.
Even me. Even me that always looks for an excuse. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about CMI, because I'm conscious that people listening might not know much about the Centre for the Moving Image under that brand.
Yeah, so the Centre for the Moving Image is the parent charity that owns Film House, which is right in the middle of Lothian Road for the Hidden Burgers. And for anyone from Aberdeen, we are the Belmont Film House in Aberdeen. And then in addition to that, we're the Edinburgh International Film Festival, which runs in June each year. So the reason it's a charity is that, you know, we are it's about art house cinema and cinema that's not normally kind of shown by the multiplexes. So where there, you know, perhaps less Hollywood money behind it, less demand, quite often foreign language stuff, and also we do education and outreach work as well. So it's basically saying there is magic in film, and how do we share that with as broad an audience and give them as deep an understanding as we can.
So how has the last 6 months affected you?
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, there's a couple of levels to that, obviously. There's work and there's home, and actually the two are probably the same. So let's say there's personal and there's business. So I think, you know, like a lot of people, on the 17th of March, we shut down, but we've been kind of working towards that for about 10 days, but really seriously for about 7 days. And then it took us a wee while to shut down, because a big old Victorian building with a cafe and cinemas and so on, that's never been shut down in 40 years, takes a lot of shutting down, and same with our operations in Aberdeen. And we were also, we were heavily pregnant with a festival at that point, because we were only 2 months away. So we were kind of at our peak prep, we're just coming into our peak preparation period. So personally, it was a tough couple of weeks, because, you know, I found myself probably working around, I mean, it's an exaggeration to say sometimes, but I think I was probably working around the clock for about 3 weeks, grabbing sleep and food whenever I could. And literally you're talking to funders, you're talking to the board, talking to staff, and trying to understand how you get to how you get to the next week, even, you know, because as a charity, we don't have a lot of cash. So when 60% of our cash goes missing almost overnight, which is what our earned income is, but we've still got all our expenses, you can see how quickly that we run into trouble. So what was amazing through that time was our funders were brilliant. You know, our customers were really supportive, and very quickly we kind of set up. We've got an important role in the community. We work with the elderly, we've got children come through, and, you know, we work with all sorts of groups. You know, we set up a kind of recommends as a community project. So here's what you can watch on streaming just now, and various things. So that was probably a month of really hard work, getting that in place. And then, you know, there's 121 of us at the time we closed, and we furloughed 112 within a fortnight. So you can see how drastically we reduced the organisation. I think the personal impact on that is that, you know, it took me about a week really after we shut down before I could get home. not literally, because I was commuting still. I was about the only commuter in Scotland at that time. But till we were shut down, I could actually get back home to do work. And I think, like everyone at that time, I've worked at home for years, but it becomes a real change when it's every day and it's enforced. So it's a really tough environment to be in. We were obviously, I've got a 9-year-old, so we were all working at home. We were trying to get to grips with homeschooling and so on. So the initial period was tough, and then I think it's just been a relentless treadmill since then. I think of never knowing what's coming next, and always having to be adaptable. So I'm kind of sitting with a screen running just now at the side, watching the news, because as we're recording this, we're approaching changes in our operating environment. We don't know what that is yet, but we'll find out at some point today, and that needs to be responded to. So there's something about always being on high alert that's fairly tiring. So I think that's it. And I haven't been out for a run, I haven't been for a swim, and I've not been on my bike. So all those accumulate. Yeah,
it's interesting, the relentless treadmill, but it's not quite the treadmill you're looking for, is it? And in terms of, so rolling forward now to now, what would you say is really taking up your brain space at the minute?
So I think there's a number of things. So we're recording this 22nd of September. So we've got a week left of furlough at 70%, a week left, a month at 60%, and then we have a cliff edge. We have some public funding, so we're lucky from that point of view, but we have to apply for that, and at this point I don't know if it's enough. So the key thing for me is about resilience and survival. We are, and that's that comes with a weight of responsibility on your shoulders. That there's people's livelihood. It's a Edinburgh institution, or it's a couple of institutions there. So you feel a huge sense of responsibility for that. So, and I think the other thing, I'm kind of spend a lot of time just reassuring stakeholders that we're okay at the moment, but we need to keep running. And the last 3 weeks, just to put it in context, we've opened all of our operations up. So that was a huge job in itself, because as far as I'm aware, I don't think Film House had ever been closed for more than a couple of days. So to actually take 6-month closure and open stuff up, that's really what that's the kind of stuff that takes up a lot of brain space. And actually, I was polishing lifts and cleaning floors, and you get to do a lot of physical work as well when you're readying these things. So
you've been rolling the sleeves up, sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
And as you say, that's a huge level of responsibility. So from a personal point of view, what's helping you cope with that?
It's good. It's a really good question. I don't know. It's I guess it's just years of built up personal resilience. I when I was at Sky, I ran real time operations there, which was basically responding to incidents and crises that came up. So I think if it was your first crisis, it probably tires you out more than if you've been through a few of them, and you get a stamina and a resilience to dealing with situations and dealing with the unknown. So I think some of it's built up. The other thing I do is and this isn't a good example. It's not setting a good example, but I don't go to bed till I'm done. I leave nothing unfinished. Well, I don't leave everything unfinished, because that would be a task that would never end. But I need to make sure I'm comfortable with where I leave things at the end of a day. Mm-hmm. And that can often lead to quite late nights, and always dipping back into things that are half finished and stuff. But I think that's how I do it. I don't it's not about boiling the ocean or eating the whole elephant in one go. It's about how you manage things into chunks you can fit around your life.
Mm-hmm. But that's also quite interesting about knowing that for you've been there before, you've been through a crisis before. And actually I've heard some other people say that can be quite useful to take a moment and reflect back in your life, personal or professional, when you've dealt with difficult times before, and how did you then, get through that? And also that helps with the resilience piece and the confidence piece that you can overcome whatever challenges, come our way.
I think it's one of these ones, you always go, what's the worst that could happen? And until you've been through a crisis, you always think it's much worse than it is. And actually, there's just some things that are much more important in life. And, it's important to focus on that.
So what would you say would be your biggest learn so far, thanks to the COVID-19 outbreak?
I think my biggest learning is that everything is learning. While it feels relentless, there's something you're learning about yourself and dealing with relentlessness. There's being in a compared to my history of being in Coca-Cola or Sky or Scottish and Newcastle, where I had huge teams around me, being on my own, there's a confidence that I've regained that I can do stuff myself. I don't rely on other people to do it. If I have to, I can do it. So there's something about being able to lead a team and go, I wouldn't ask you to do anything I wouldn't do myself. And I'm kind of taking that example forward. So I think the other part of that is during the course of the last couple of months, I've learned about the plumbing in film house. I've learned about how projectors work and pest control and stuff. So it's something where you go, there was something over there that I had, I kept over there and I had no interest in. And actually, you can just turn your hand to anything if you need to. So that's it. It's about getting a confidence back in your own ability, just to go hands-on when you need to.
Mm-hmm. That's brilliant. And then if you were to look into a crystal ball and think about what the world, or even the film house, what the community or businesses will look like, say in sort of 12, 24 months, a bit further down the line, where do you think we'll be at?
I think I think this has been a monumental change, and I think it's a permanent change. And there's a couple of examples to give that. Work from home is the most obvious one that everyone uses. There was always this fear of trusting people to work from home, which I never bought into, and I think it's been proven now that it's actually a really good way of working. I miss going to the office because I've got an hour each way in the train. That I miss decompressing and compressing, or whatever the terms are. So, but I think beyond the working from home thing, I think the commute has now, I think people now see it as a thing that is not as benign as it was. So being packed in a tube, I mean that as a metal tube as opposed to the tube, with a lot of people coughing and sneezing and spluttering and touching the same things, I think people will view that differently on the other side of this. I also think where we've chuckled at tourists with masks on in the past, I'm not convinced that is not the way we're going to be, to use a lot of double negatives. But I think we're going to become much more health aware. I think there's a degree of skepticism because we locked down and slammed the lid on this thing through the first half of the year. I suspect the winter is going to be worse and probably more traumatic to us as a population. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but that's my gut feel, is that we're going to learn a lot about this virus over the next couple of months. And I think, so to give you an example, about a month before we locked down, I had a terrible cold. And as usual, I manned up and dragged myself into the office and coughed and spluttered over everyone. And I just don't think that'll be tolerated in the future. If you will be sent home if you've got anything of a sniffle, because we now understand how that just goes through the place and we become less efficient and we could just have worked from home. So I think, in timelines, I think 12 months from now, I have a fear, and it's probably not an unreasonable one. I think we might be in a similar position. I think we're going to be in this kind of, until there is a vaccination that can go out at speed, and we don't have as a population, we don't have a great track history of creating vaccines. I think we're going to be in this kind of kept in a Tupperware box and lifting the lid up every now and again to let us out for a while. I think that's potential for the next year. I think, but we are going to learn how to live with this, because that's what we do. So, the virus is going to be around. We're going to have to take precautions, but we're just going to have to suck it up and go, right, we have to change the way we live life. So, that might be you wear a mask on public transport, or you don't go on a pub crawl the way you used to, or whatever it is. We're going to evolve into a world where we're much more conscious of public health. And I think that's the responsible thing to do, rather than deny that's a thing that might be coming.
Mm-hmm. No, but there's something positive there in the fact that, you've said we do evolve, and you're right.
Absolutely, yeah.
We do, and as a human species, we are able to adapt and evolve. So this is just what we need to do, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we would already have been further on. I have this fear that social media is actually, is a real anchor on society now. It's, you've got a bucket of BAM pots with all sorts of extremist ideas on there. Actually, if you look at social media, you think a lot of people are skeptical about the public health environment that we're in. But actually, if I look at my box office at Filmhouse, there's not that many people are skeptical about this. People are staying home. They're not going out. The streets are quiet. So we have to reassure these people that things are safe for them to come back out. And that's about taking responsible actions. And, it's about not looking at social media probably. It's about proper practical steps that people who are really qualified can tell us about. And once we start listening to that, whatever our new normal will be will come quickly.
A lot of wise words said in there, I think.
all the stuff I would put on social media.
Yeah, ironically, this video is going to be going on social, the professional social. So just before I let you go, what words of wisdom or positivity would you like to share with people that will be watching this? Will be other COOs, CFOs, MDs, other leaders of businesses. What would be something that you'd like to give them to take away today?
I guess there's two things. One is about planning. So, I don't know who it was that said it, but there's a saying that a plan doesn't survive the heat of battle, or something like that. And I think that's true. You can plan yourself to death, and your plan falls apart in the first time you try to use it. But planning is important. Not going into details of, well, press this button, but actually going, right, what if we had a pandemic? What are the things we think could happen? And actually just getting a small trusted group through, who are player operations team, to go, right, and what are the impacts? What do we need to do? What happens? And as I obviously wear two hats in operations and finance, but the finance side of me is then going, right, how do I extrapolate those ideas into what financial plans do I need to have in place? And then it'll all go wrong. But actually, it's that process of the thinking that's important, so that you can do that fast. It's you're creating the new heuristics that you can work through. And the second one is that everything is a learning experience just now, and even a hard day or bad day is going to be something that you learn from it. And part of that is that a bad day is never catastrophic. It normally there's something on the other side of it. So I think it's those two things. Don't plan for a plan, but plan for planning. I think is the discipline of planning. And just accept that you're learning, and don't beat yourself up too hard about things.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to sharing that and see what others say about plan for planning, and what they'll have to say about your other wise words. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Kirsty.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.